you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for knives to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Alright, good morning, folks. Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. If you are in the path of the storm, please be safe. I hope you guys prepared. We are ourselves, so we may have to go a little bit early today, but maybe not, actually. Alright, so we're usually pretty good like that. Alright, living in Florida for as long as you do, as long as we have, you know, you look at storms that come up the eastern seaboard and you're like, so what? But I don't want to convey that message to you, because you may not be a veteran of such storms. So make sure you're prepared all to go. All right, so there's a couple of polls that I do want to talk about today. And I did see on locals, peoplespundit.locals.com. Peoplespundit.locals.com. I did see a request to talk about Governor Abbott and whether or not he's vulnerable. We will get to that absolutely today. But I want to say this. I'll pick a couple of polls that I want to talk about here and there. But for the most part, I try not to get consumed, even though I am a pollster. I try not to look at other people's polls all that often. I'm going to tell you why. They screw you up. They mess you up. The best thing you can do is tune them out and try to do the best job that you can do as an independent pollster yourself. If you are an independent pollster, which most are not. Let's be real. That is the best thing you could do, especially during an election. You do not want to be looking at every single poll that comes out. So, if I was not that kind of guy, then I might have looked at a couple of polls, and let's say Missouri, for instance. And I may have said, oh my God, Donald Trump is barely winning the state of Missouri. Maybe this is an 08 moment for Joe Biden. But of course it was not. And of course that was not true. And here we are. So I try to tune them out. Only though when I see some that I do trust, that I do trust and I think are at least worth considering, whether they're right or wrong. End up being right or wrong. I do think that they are truly doing the best job that they can do, as opposed to others who I definitely cannot say that for. About. However you want to say it grammatically. All right. let's just start with that question from locals, and then I'll get more into what we're going to talk about, what I had lined up here, which we're going to go over Georgia in much greater detail, locals community. All right, I just so the rest of you guys because there was much more interest on Georgia, what we put out, the voter analysis modeling, than there was this. But I did want to say this because this is very possible that Governor Abbott is somewhat vulnerable. All right, you have Abbott, and I was just talking to Don Smith, my good buddy, the Don Smith Show, the host of the Don Smith Show. I was just talking about him earlier. You know, they have CPAC in Texas coming up, and because Trump, the former president, decided to speak, you had Abbott initially pull out like a turd, and then then he spoke to the former president, and he went back in. But you had a slew of these other speakers running like little girls for the hills. No offense to you ladies, because I frankly think some of you are much tougher than some of these male Republican politicians, all right? Governor Abbott being one of them. I mean, let's get serious. Governor Abbott talks tough, and then when something happens like COVID, he caves like a little girl. All right. So, and then he sees Ron DeSantis being a real man and a real leader, and he tries to emulate him. Well, too late, too sorry, too late. Voters don't forget cowardice. Never do. So, I wouldn't at all be surprised if I saw dissatisfaction. If I polled Texas right now and I saw gross dissatisfaction with Governor Abbott among Republican voters. His job will be to convince Republicans, well, you definitely don't want a Democratic governor, do you? Look, and not to advocate for Governor Abbott because I am not. But I will tell you this. Texas's election integrity laws are sound. If a Democrat does take the governor's mansion, which I don't think is going to happen, all right? The polls are going to favor Democrats, folks, for the near future, from anywhere from the near future to forever. Anywhere in between.
Till when?
Forever. They're going to favor Democrats. They have been favoring Democrats. Look, Wendy Davis had a shot, remember? She wound up going down in flames. We saw very close polls for Wendy Davis until the very end. That didn't happen. Texas hasn't had a Democratic governor since the 90s. All right, so there is a problem here, though. When you fall for the COVID shenanigan, the COVID, the farce as in the lockdown. Look, and you can send whatever complaints you want, but what you can't do is answer this question. Show me any other civilization in the history of the world that forced the shutdown of commerce because of any plague, any virus, any infectious disease whatsoever. You will never find one. You will point to a phony example of a quarantine, which is not the same thing as what we had here. So there will be people who are mad. However, I would implore some of you who care about election, if election integrity is your top issue, which I told you it should be, whether you're a gun person, you're a healthcare person, you're an economy person, you're a foreign policy person, you're an immigration person, you're a trade person, you better make room in your heart for election integrity, because nothing else matters if we don't have that. And Texas has some of the most strict election integrity laws, and not even laws, they're guidelines. So you might remember all of the talk about Dominion, which I personally criticized because it was irrelevant, unnecessary, and dissuade people from talking about what was relevant and necessary. You may remember the company Dominion. Well, they tried out for Texas. They tried to get Texas. But because of Texas's laws and the report that the Assistant Secretary of State got back from the experts that they had hired to conduct a quality control kind of review on their software systems, and not just hardware, so their election systems, they failed. Texas denied them because they did not meet the standards outlined by the state of Texas. Well, not even outlined, required by the state of Texas. We still haven't gotten a good explanation. As a matter of fact, we still have not gotten a good explanation for Governor Abbott why they were denied. The Secretary of State's office certainly hasn't answered that question. And the man, the Assistant Deputy Secretary of State himself, whose signature is on the paper, hasn't answered that question. That'd be a good question to ask. Be a good question to answer because we have asked it. Mm-hmm. We just haven't gotten the answer. Aside from a couple leaked pages from the report, which flatly states, the expert testimony in the reports flatly states that not only are the systems not sound, they look like they're so badly designed, a cynic may think they were designed to be manipulated. Mm-hmm. That's not my words. That's their words. Anyway, so I wouldn't at all be surprised to see Abbott in danger. 2022 will be all about the lockdown. I bet you if polls, public, university, maybe Quinnipiac, we can get a good solid crappy Q poll. If Quinnipiac would have polled Pennsylvania, I wonder, did they poll the Pennsylvania proposition? I'm not sure. But I bet you, had they polled the proposition, they would not have showed it was going to fail by 4 or 5 points to strip Governor Wolf of his emergency powers during the pandemic. Those were essentially anti-lockdown amendments, and they went down in a blaze of glory. In fact, they drove Republican turnout, even though Republicans didn't have any serious competitive race. They were Democrat mayoral and attorney general races, or district attorney. Mm-hmm. That's it. Yet, somehow, during a Democratic primary, Republicans outvoted Democrats. I wonder why that could have been. What, pray tell, could have motivated these people to come out and vote? It's the lockdown. And the lockdown will be... you know what? I'm going to use the word. I hate the word. Phrase. It will be a litmus test. Especially for Republicans. If you were duped like Governor Abbott was duped, you have a problem. You will have a problem. And by the way, real quick, in Wyoming, there are definitely going to be pro-Cheney polls. However, I will say this is the problem. Laura and I, and we had Matt Brainerd on last week. Mm-hmm. We were talking about this. The right does something the left does not. You must decide you are not a viable candidate and get the hell out of the race. If it's not mano a mano, then you're going to allow these grifters, these fake Republicans, these fake conservatives, these warmongers and big spenders to slip through with 35% of the vote. Maybe a third if she's lucky. That's going to happen. So, if maybe there's a candidate of the race who doesn't see anything wrong with sleeping with little girls, you may want to get on the phone and push him out. Somebody who's in the race who isn't raising any money and can't be viable, you may want to get on the phone and push him out. The left doesn't do that to each other. They're fantastic like that. They pick their left-wing champion, they pick their progressive champion, and they run with them. It's Bush or die in Missouri last time. Well, Bush is too left-wing for that district. She couldn't possibly win that district. Oh, no, she did. She did. Because ultimately, it really does come down to having the courage of your own conviction. And then if all continues down this path, there will be issues that voters did not pay attention to in 2020 because it's a sad byproduct of our political reality, which is that you may hire a politician to do a job by voting for them. And then they come in and they do that job, and they do it well, and they fix the problem. And you don't take that into consideration when you make your decision, or I'm talking about you, meaning non-partisans who truly are persuadable. You don't take that into consideration when you make your decision again, and everything goes to pot all over again. which is what we have here. And now they want to whine about it. All right, here we go. Boom. This is a new Rasmussen poll. I'm on the wrong thing. But as you can clearly see, we have a near majority rating Kamala Harris. First of all, more than 6 in 10 Americans call what is going on at the border of crisis, which we have seen as well. All right. Large numbers understand that this is a stupid time to be encouraging. And they blame Biden for it. They do not blame Donald Trump for it. We know that, right? And so does the Mexican president, by the way. So this media charade, even the Latin American countries blame Biden, folks. Because it is his fault. It's the people around him. It's their fault. Because they encourage this. In any event, the bottom line is, more than 6 in 10 Americans do view what is happening at the border to be a crisis. Not whatever little cute word Jen Psaki can come up with at a press briefing that she's never getting pushback during. It's not even a press. What do we call those things now? We need a new word for what the media does, the White House press corps does with Jen Psaki every day or every other. Because it's not a press briefing. It's a fawn session. It's a propaganda. An hour. It's like the presidential propaganda briefing. That's it. Let's just call it that. The presidential propaganda briefing. The PPB, baby. I'll even make an acronym for it. The soldier in me will slap an acronym on that puppy. Whatever cute little fake word Jen Psaki comes up with to describe what is going on down there, which is a catastrophe, and every border agent will tell you it's a catastrophe. All right. More than 6 in 10 Americans don't agree with it. They know it's a crisis, and they call it such. Kamala Harris has been appointed to run point on this crisis, even though she just finally decided to visit it and went somewhere where it's irrelevant. It's not even a major problem. Did you hear Trump, by the way? He's like, next time maybe she can go to somewhere where there's actually an issue. Where it's an action. Maybe next time she can go somewhere where the problem exists. But alas, she doesn't want the border. She doesn't want the fence jumpers in the background. So she's going to go somewhere where it's not an issue. Unlike the former president who used to walk the points between the boundary between the points of entry, which is where the problem occurs. By the way, with all of these people, rest assured, you're also importing sex trafficking. You're also importing heroin. You're importing fentanyl. You're importing heroin laced with fentanyl that are going to result in your dead loved ones, who unfortunately suffer from the plague of addiction, as many of us have. You're going to import people who otherwise may pose a security risk and would otherwise be denied entry into this country. Because immigration is ugly. Illegal immigration is ugly. It's big business. A lot of people profit from it, including corrupt politicians, fake civil rights activists, cartels, other drug dealers, and just generally even the disgusting coyotes who sexually abuse women in the shape of favors to get them across the border in a box truck. It's gross on every level so Nancy Pelosi can have somebody to fold her shirts.
It's disgusting.
So Mitch McConnell can have somebody to cut his lawn. It's disgusting, and we should be ashamed of ourselves, but I digress. All right? 48% rate the job she is doing as poor at the border. And let me pull up, and I know it's very hard to see, but I'll read it for you. Let me just pull it up here, and I know I don't like to do things separately here, but all right. And it's 62% who see it as what's going on as a border crisis. Only 13% of American voters, there's likely voters, only 13% rate the job she is doing as excellent. Only 20% rate it as good. Another 13% rate it as fair. But overall 48% rate it poorly. And another 6% are not sure. Is the Biden administration's immigration policy better or worse than former President Donald Trump's immigration policy. 49% say worse, 35% say better, 11% say there's not much difference. Well, then you are living in another universe. A completely different universe. But I brought this up because we talk about this phenomenon a lot. Now, of course, it could become a major voting issue again. It could be. And we're polling everywhere right now, even including Mexicans in different various states. Blue ones to red states. And ironically, as of right now, in 3 out of the 4 surveys that we currently have going, Mexican Americans who are legally here, residing here, they are citizens. Mexican Americans are most likely than any other Hispanic origin to tell us that they oppose what is going on. Where is this coming from? Overwhelmingly, $30,000 to $100,000. No college degree. So for Governor Abbott to fight the tide of the Dallas burbs and the Houston burbs, he's going to need those voters that we just discussed on What Are the Odds with Barnes in the Pew Research poll that may or may not underestimate Donald Trump's support, but nevertheless show that Donald Trump made incredible gains among Hispanic voters. He's going to need the voters who handed Donald Trump Zapata County. He's going to need the voters who offset southern and western Texas, who offset Dallas, the Dallas suburbs, with huge vote shares in southern and western Texas, which typically are blue. It's impossible for me to overstate how the roles flipped in 2020, where Republicans typically do better among those white voters in the burbs, and Democrats run up the margins with Hispanics in those areas. But that did not happen in 2020. So you can either back policy that these people appreciate. What do you think they voted for Donald Trump for? Because he was a racist? Because he kept, he was a racist who kept Hispanics out of the country with a sane immigration policy? No. That they support?
No.
Because he backed the lockdown and wanted everybody to wear a diaper on their face for 2 years?
Nope.
No. Because they work and because he wanted to get them back to work. Because they work and he wanted to keep it to a minimum when it came to new arrivals taking jobs from already existing U.S. residents. Governor Abbott, you got a hill to climb. All right? No, not saying he's not going to win, and maybe he ends up winning comfortably. But he's got a hill to climb, and if he backs out and somebody else, because he's got primary challengers, then he made it that much harder for a Republican candidate to win. All right? That's what you get for supporting the lockdowns. It's that simple. It really is, and I hate to burst everybody's bubble, but it really is that simple. All right, let me find the rooftop view. If you are a locals person, then you have the PDF. I told you I wanted to go over this in more detail because I do, all right? We released on Saturday the statewide voter analysis model for Georgia. And I'm going to bring it up. This is the rooftop view, okay? Rooftop meaning it looks like a Google map. It's a geo map. And shades of red, obviously are Republican. Shades of blue, obviously are Democrat. Shades of purple, obviously are independent. Now, I probably could have let this one load up for a little bit longer, but here's the bird's eye view of Georgia. We're going to go over this briefly, and I'm going to come back to these different maps. It's 11:24, and just in case, I want to kind of get through everything, right? And then maybe if we don't have to go early, we'll answer some questions, all right? So here's the bird's eye view of Georgia with every single record on file. Oh, Laura.
You didn't hear that.
7.7 million records in the state of Georgia on the voter file. When you exclude suspected deceased and change of address flags, and the COAs, the change of address flags, are the vast majority of these, what I'm about to say, okay? When you exclude them, that record drops by a little over 1 million. Let's just call it, though, 6.6. Turnout in the presidential election was about 5 million. So, nationally, by the way, turnout was about 66%. That's generally what people have settled on now. All right. So when we were looking at Georgia and it looks this tight, Republicans have a very tiny edge in the voter file. And you have the independent vote, which, you know, if it goes against Republicans, could give Democrats a slight edge, like we saw with the Senate races. That's every single record. And by the way, change of address flags are a big deal, and that's what is removed from that 7.7 million. But, you know, it makes me laugh when I hear Crappy Burger and his little turd minions say that they went through this incredible purging, and because they're so keen on election integrity, they went through this incredible purge and they got rid of 100,000 records. I have said it once and I will say it again. There are more change of address flags in Fulton County than that alone. Just in Fulton County. And I don't mean to pick on Fulton. It just happens to be a bigger population county. So I know it. They know it. And unless PolitiFact was stupid enough to believe what they said, PolitiFact should know it. In any event, there are also duplicate records. There are maiden names. There are many reasons for records on the voter file to not really be eligible records. Because, say it with me, folks, being registered to vote in the United States of America is not the same thing as being eligible to vote in the United States of America. As crazy and third world as that sounds, it is true. There are many dirty records. And Georgia is a great example. So all of this talk in 18 from Stacey Abrams and her lot about Kemp when he was Secretary of State purging the voters' records is ludicrous. And moving on. So here's the bird's eye view. And if you are a community member, peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com, you have access to the PDFs that we print out, not just the graphics, which give you a lot more numbers, right? You may notice that that number in the bird's eye view is way more than the number that turned out to vote for the presidential election. If we got any closer, it would look even worse than it does now. All right, but here we go. Here is by party the same bird's eye view voter analysis model. Okay? Here's by party, by county. Please take note of everything east of, let's say, Turner, Calhoun, Terrell, Sumter, that's in the southwestern part of the state, those counties. Please take note at the central southern regions of the state in this map. I'm thinking, for instance, somewhere like Camden or Coffee and Atkinson. Let's just start with Coffee, where if you have peoplespundit.locals.com, if you have the voter analysis that we printed out, you will see that Democrats are a large share of the vote there. And traditionally, you would think they would lose. Republican candidates would lose that county. Okay? Please look to the north, if we may, for a moment. I'm thinking Taffrail County, if I'm saying that correctly. I'm thinking Ben Hill. All right? You guys can clearly see Democratic shares of the vote are huge. Well, how in the hell? Well, we'll get into that. All right? Just hold on. All right?
It's like you're going.
You may also remember when we were polling Georgia. Okay, real quick here. Let me just get rid of this for a hot second. You may remember when we were polling Georgia. we gave both Warnock and Ossoff leads over Loeffler and Perdue, respectively. Perdue had slightly better performance than Kelly Loeffler, but nonetheless, they were both going to lose by a very small margin. But nevertheless, they were going to lose. Turnout was around 4 million. And I said at the time, Democrats aren't winning these elections. Republicans are losing them. Please take a moment to look at Exhibit A. Here's the region, each region of the state broken down. Here's the margin. And here's how likely they are to turn out to vote. Democrats won those elections because Republicans didn't get the voter turnout in the areas of the state that I just pointed out, made so clear this is how important this is. Georgia is not a blue state. Is it trending bluer? It is. But it's not blue. And when you look at voter turnout modeling, specifically at the turnout levels, I'm glad Laura moved the mic up, specifically at the turnout levels we saw in November, and then when we saw a little bit less turnout, obviously, but still very high turnout for a special election for the U.S. Senate on January 5th. A wholly stupid date for the Republican legislature to set for two special elections if they wanted their Republican candidates to hold on to the races. But nevertheless, these people in this area of the state, they are ancestral Democrats. As you can see on the map, on the voter analysis, they are still even categorized as Democrats. They're either going to have a voter that they personally, a candidate that they personally like as a Republican candidate, or maybe they won't even vote. It is even possible, if it's a conservative enough Democrat, they may vote for them. It depends. Are they a working class, old mole Democrat? The problem Democrats have had is that they haven't been running them lately. Michelle Nunn pretended to be one against David Perdue in 2014, but she was not. And this is at the point where Democrats began to lose their grip on these voters. And then along comes Donald J. Trump, who everybody hates and loathes except for the American people in these areas of the country. All right. Along comes Donald Trump, and he squeezes a ton of votes out of these counties. Let's go back and talk about some of them. Here it is right here. All right. You have Teffair County, Donald Trump won 65.2% of the vote. Dodge County, 72.4%. Again, why am I doing this? Because the media wants to take these polls and they want you to believe that there was like 4% crossover support. And I'm here to tell you that is mathematically impossible. These are the people who are very difficult to reach. Very difficult. Anything east of Doherty, Donald Trump dominated until you get to Liberty and Chatham counties. By the way, gets 40% of the vote in Chatham, whatever. I know people are going to chastise me for that.
Whatever.
Coffee County, a little bit to the south, by the way, of Jeff Davis and Teffair. A little bit to the south, nearly 70% of the vote. Impossible. Impossible if you believe these polls. All right. Now, moving on again. Let's look at because this is here where really you're going to ask yourself how the hell this, how is this possible? Here is back to the bird's eye view. Here is 66% at least, 66% likely to turn out to vote. The electorate is just under presidential turnout, what we saw in the presidential election, a couple 100,000 shy, but much closer than the bird's eye view. You'll notice Republicans step out to a near R plus 10 advantage in the electorate. And you're going to see the difference in the map here. Here's the bird's eye view. You can still see ancestral blue running from the southwest to the central eastern part of the state. All along the central corridor of this region of the state is where Republicans suffered from low turnout. This is where, when we were hitting them up online, these are the voters who said, what good is it? They'll just rob me. These are the voters who said, I'm tired of voting for cowardly Republicans when they won't stand up for us, when they won't fight.
Well, what do you expect?
What the hell do you expect? Now, yeah, it is true, throwing some blame on Lynn Wood and some of the other people who helped that narrative, but that's not all that happened here. It wasn't just Lynn Wood came out of nowhere and convinced people, voting is worthless because they'll be robbed. It was more like voting is worthless because I'll be robbed, and also Republicans are coward, spineless little pieces of crap
Garbage.
who aren't worthy of my vote.
So they see it as a lose-lose situation.
It's a lose-lose. 6 in 10 said vote by mail led to fraud. 6 in 10 statewide. What do you think it was in this part of the state?
Lord have mercy.
Majority of voters in Georgia believe Donald Trump won the state of Georgia. And yet Republicans couldn't muster a spine to fight for them. So I don't know. And look, it doesn't matter what's true and what's not. And by the way, we all know where I fall on this. But it doesn't even matter. It's irrelevant. All that is relevant is how these people feel towards the party. Donald Trump outperformed David Perdue in the Atlanta metro area. So every Republican consultant out there who convinced them to chase the Karen led them to defeat. And by the way, it was also extremely stupid for Mitch McConnell to not back the $2,000 stimulus or the extra stimulus money, which even Donald Trump supported. All right? So you're telling these people, these are the people hurt most by this forced shutdown. These are the people hurt the most. And what does Mitch McConnell do in his infinite wisdom? Kill the bill! Which they got anyway. So what was the point? Was Mitch McConnell just dying to tell working class people he doesn't give a damn about them? And the Republican Party is not your friend? Was that his intent? Was that his intent? Because that's all he achieved. I know they can't. I'd rather them see the map than me right now. All right, but that is all he achieved. Now we're going to go to the next map here, okay?
Yeah.
The next one is basically down the line. We looked at the bird's eye or rooftop. Oh, no, I don't want to confuse you. Bird's eye is the term I keep using to when I show you the entire voter file without the change of address, without the suspected deceased, without the maiden names, without the duplicate records.
Without the fraud.
You know, without the garbage that every Republican journalist keeps ignoring out there. Because that is the industry standard. It automatically defaults to that when you go through the National Voter File Database. Believe me, there are more than that. Because in the case of change of address flags, there are people who have left and just didn't flag their address. They exist. The system is always behind. And the system always undercounts the dirty records. Always. It's just the nature of our system. It's not going to automatically update when someone dies. It's not going to automatically update when somebody moves.
Civic duty, people.
Because as I've said a million times, when your mother or your father or your grandfather or your grandmother pass away, you make the arrangements for the burial, you call the morgue, you call the mortuary, you get the flowers, you send out every invitation, you make calls to the family, you grieve. What you don't do is call Crappy Burger, the Secretary of State, or your local supervisor of elections, and say, Grandma, Grandpa, Mom, or Dad passed, please remove them from the voter record. When you move, what do? Maybe you have to sell your house. You get it listed with an agent. You go through the crazy closing. You got to close on your new house now, right? Or you got to find a renter. Maybe you're finding a renter for your old property and you're renting another property. So you got to find a landlord. You got to get a renter. You got to get a U-Haul. You got to pack it up. Maybe you need help packing it up. You get 4 guys to come and help you. You all stuff it in the 26-foot box truck. You run down the I-95. What you don't do is call Crappy Burger at the Secretary of State's office or your local supervisor of election and say, hey, Crappy Burger, I left. Can you please take me off the voter roll? Only when you put a change of address flag request in, or a change of address request in with the post office, or whatever it may be, that is when you get flagged. So it's always going to be behind. Always. Now, that's what I mean by bird's eye. We simply remove those we know about that are duplicates, that are change of address, that are suspected deceased. Which in most cases, very accurate.
And maiden name.
It's very accurate. Maiden names, right, things like that. That's what we get rid of when we show you the complete bird's eye view. Now, turnout modeling is who actually shows up to vote, who has shown up to vote. Who is, based on new voter demographics and behaviors, who of these new voters who have no vote history only because of their age or because of they just registered, who mirrors the new voter turnout demographic and will show up. There is some risk that you can miss some of those new voters. They slip through the crack. There is some risk of that. Absolutely. Without a doubt. But we went 66%, at least 66% likely to turn out. All the way up to 100% certainty. They're going to turn out. So that is, please be pretty liberal with the standard on who you think may be a new voter. All the way up to who has a vote history for the last 4 election cycles. And in this case, we did general election. In other words, Doris, who is 95, who has voted in every election since she turned 18. All right? Makes sense? And this is what we get. Now, ironically, we do see Republicans widen that graph quite a bit in counties like, let's say, Lawrence, where Donald Trump won 64% of the vote. It sure as hell didn't look like that on the bird's eye view, now did it? All right? When we look at Tefler, however I say it, I don't want to kill people. Go ahead, you're absolutely good. All right? The bottom line is you can see that area starts to get a lot more red, but you certainly still have counties all the way up until you hit Washington where Democrats, the ancestral Democratic vote, is absolutely still there. All right. And again, here's the presidential election result. So now this makes more sense to you. All right. That's the presidential election result. So you should look at that and you should say, okay, now I get it. Now that looks about right. So again, let's do some basic overlap here. And there's always this question, and that's perfectly all right. I'll answer it again. The graphs are geospatial graphs. Okay. So the larger the pie, the more distributed across a geographic area the population is. By large, I mean the larger the radius of the pie, or circumference if you want to use that. That means that people are more spaced out throughout that county. Their population distribution is wider. It's less dense. Population density is shown really when you get into high population density areas, like in the northwestern part of the state where you see the ATL. You have Fulton, you have Gwinnett, you have Cobb, DeKalb. That is where you'll start to see more smaller radius graphs. That means the population is definitely more dense. And of course, the higher the graph, the more total population. All right? So what you can see in Georgia is there is a big rural vote, but it's very spaced out, and it's distributed over a lot of counties. You don't really have any big rural counties with very high population centers, all right? And there are a couple where, Republicans get maybe a 10,000 net gain, like Camden in the southeast. You can see that big graph. It's the very southeastern county in the state. So you can see that, but it's got to offset, of course, big 200,000+ vote differences in places like Fulton especially when they keep finding 20, 30,000 ballots a day. Oh, no, here's another 20. Oh, no, here's another 30. All right, so it's a difficult task if you have a candidate who doesn't excite these people. And these people are not at all loyal to the Republican Party. And that is what happened on January 5th. Donald Trump did not lose the election for those two Republican senators who were viewed by the electorate to be corrupt. Those two senators lost their elections with the help of Mitch McConnell and every other idiot GOP consultant who have been dying for a post-Trump era. They lost these elections. Without Donald Trump, they couldn't do it. And in fact, if we look at turnout again, oh, I don't have the Senate one up. I should have. Why didn't I get the Senate results? But if you go back, and you could just even do this on your own, right? Where are the, oh yeah, because we had the special election separately. Mm-hmm. You can find that on PPD if you want, all right? Where was turnout the strongest for Republicans? Where Donald Trump went to visit. North of the ATL metro area. Those are Republican counties, have been long time Republican counties. Those are the counties that did not suffer from low, depressed turnout. So if anything, Donald Trump made the margin closer because he ginned up part of the base in the northern part of the state. But they wanted him to stay away. They only called him 24 hours before the election because they knew they were sunk. How close it was. And just for, at a full disclosure, somebody called me and said, what do you think the president should do? And I said, I think he should sit right at home, put his feet up, and let him suffer. Mm-hmm. That's what I said. Why? It was nothing but risk for him. Mm-hmm. So he goes, they lose anyway because they're idiots and you can't undo something you've done for weeks and weeks and weeks. Maybe he could have.
Everybody already got the memo honestly, that you were anti-Trump.
I know, everyone got the memo. Mm-hmm. Right, good, exactly. Your little fake, oh, I'm going to object to the electors. The very last, at the 11th hour, was not sinking it. David Perdue barely showing up, mm-hmm. putting his face on a screen, not going to do. David Perdue hiding from John Ossoff in a debate because he didn't want to answer questions about his insider trading, not going to work. And in fact, because if you look at the turnout, the disparate turnout, mm-hmm. where Trump did go versus where they suffered, if he had barnstormed the state maybe over even a day or 2 days, and he had made 3 different stops, he probably could have put him over. Or at least one of them. He could have put Perdue over at least.
Neither one of them deserved it, though.
They didn't deserve it. And my argument was, you're simply going to risk them blaming you even more, and you're going to get that anyway. Yeah. But what you will get if you go and they lose, what you will get is a diminished standing. It will diminish your standing, your power, your authority. It'll diminish your political capital for endorsements down the road, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. So no, put your feet up and let them go home and count their money that they made from insider trading after they're defeated. And that was the end of that. And after a couple of weeks of every so-called Republican pundit, every so-called expert, Fox News' favorite alternative media, water carriers, you know who I'm talking about. After weeks of them spewing McConnell's talking points, eventually they get to Twitter and they go, you know what? It looks like they lost because they couldn't drive up turnout.
Shocker.
No kidding. And I guess it really wasn't Donald Trump's fault. They didn't lose because the Atlanta metro area went so bad against them. Donald Trump outperformed David Perdue in the Atlanta metro area. Let that sink in for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Let that sink in. All right. It's 11:50 because I am looking, and it does look like we're not going to have to cut it that short, but just a little. I'm going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and let's do some questions.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan, folks? Sounds like a plan.
Man,
all right.
Plan.
You're watching Inside the Numbers before we take a break with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. You can follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit. And of course, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. And if you like our videos, period, this, what are the odds, the rest, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Hit that notification bell, and that will let you know when we're going to go live. If you want access to these great voter file analysis that we're talking about right now, then you got to join Locals. Same thing with polling. You want to have input on the polling, got to join Locals. peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. There is another way where you can get input on the polling at least, and that is when you make a contribution, Big Data Poll / Public Polling Project. It's the link is in the description. Do not forget, contributors, leave us a comment. Even if you're anonymous, Laura and I still see the comments. So if you have something you want to weigh in, hey, I would really like to see this, think about putting this on the poll, put it in there, because the more of each kind of topic we hear from you about, right? So maybe you have a little bit different, take on the same issue, but it's nevertheless a similar issue. There's synergy between what you and other people are asking. That's how you steer us in the direction of what to do. And interestingly enough, because of how these surveys are created, because of how organic they are, we end up talking about the stuff that the American people want to talk about anyway, because we're essentially asking the American people what they want to survey.
You guys are the American people.
You are.
So we don't need a research
So we don't
team
need
to
an
figure out
editor
who the American
or
people
it's amazing,
are.
right? We don't need an editor. We don't need to put our director with the editor of whatever media outlets running and paying and sponsoring for the poll. We don't need to get them together and have them tell us what's most important to you.
We just ask you directly.
We just ask you directly. It's a beautiful thing. And yet we were actually going to take a break for the summer because I've been a big proponent of the difficulty in polling during the summer. But the locals community wanted to do it. And there are generous people who said, yeah, give me a link. So we did put up, after funding that last one, we did put up the link. All right. So, you know what? Because it is the summer, just hear me out. I'm doing this without Laura. I'm about to drop a bomb on Laura. Because it is the summer, if we do hit the mark before the fall, I will donate $500 myself. Yeah.
You're not phased.
I will don't. Yeah, I know I'm not. I will. You know what? I'll put it in right now. I'll put it in after this. And if not, then we'll move on. We'll add it to the next one or something. But what are we in? July? It's July 7th. All right. So because there were really about 3 people on Locals were like, no, give me a link. I want more polling. So and then they contributed to it. I don't even know what we're up to now, but they were generous contributions. I don't know where we're at now, but I haven't looked in a bit. But if we get within that 500 mark, then you can stop donating because I'm going to do it. I'll put it on myself. But I just have always been with a summer polling with a caveat, which is that it's difficult to reach certain people. Very difficult. And typically you have to oversample more to be able to reach them, or nudge them and call them 6 times, 8 times even. Hey, it's us again. We're leaving you a voicemail. You can call us back at this number and take an automated survey, or we'll try you back if we don't hear from you. Right? Or another email. Hey, it's us again. Don't forget to give us 5 minutes of your time and take the survey. People are in summer vacations. They're doing what we're doing. Laura's gardening. I got my Bermuda folks.
Oh my god.
I'll talk to my locals community about it after.
Wait till I talk to you guys about him.
I was like an expecting daddy.
Pacing.
It's magical. Now the only thing is we have this storm coming, and it actually is good. You could like help. It could help so you don't have to spend so much on water, because it's a lot of water to keep that stuff alive when it's new.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but yeah, I know my locals community will be stoked for me because they understood how sad I was to kill the centipede.
I mean, some even wore hats and.
Yeah,
Or the...
we played taps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Oh, it was a sad day. It was a
hard day.
It was a hard day. All right, so with that, again, if you do donate and you're not a member of Locals and you can't reach us, please, even if you make yourself anonymous, please leave us a comment and let us know what you would like to see polled. We don't guarantee everybody's stuff is going to get in there. But when you leave us that comment, you're adding your voice to, believe me, what is already a chorus of other voices. And we're listening for the loudest of them. Mm-hmm. And that's what ends up on the survey.
We look for the repeat.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Higher interest, more likely to get on the survey. With the help of the locals community who helps us design it, gets to look at the questionnaire, gets to take it if they want to take it, you know, or test one anyway.
Yes.
All right, so with that in mind, I'm taking a real quick break. We'll be back in about 2 minutes and 46 seconds.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a knife, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love.
We fold the. Oh.
And we'll roll. Got you. We'll roll it again, as we always do when we get that close to the end. We'll roll it again, answer some of your questions in the chat. I'm going to take the first one real quick, though, with the DM. What is the topic of the next survey? Which will be on you. That's my point. It could be, we could ask about the infrastructure bill. We could ask about whether or not we want to put, you know, would the American people support the infrastructure bill if all of these other things were tied to it? I mean, it's really whatever you prefer. We could ask about the border again. I think that's an ongoing thing. But there are things that we track all the time. The Biden administration, despite being handed the golden goose from Donald Trump, the Trump White House, he missed the vaccination target. Shocker! He missed the H1N1. Again, one of the biggest myths of this election campaign, the last one, was that Joe Biden was ever going to do this better than Donald Trump. Joe Biden was kicked off of the swine flu task force for incompetence and for fear-mongering. Barack Obama had to go, whoa, Joe, take a back seat. And they didn't even come close. Their target was 100,000, man, or something, or 100 million. And the same thing now. and they got like after 6 months, it was ridiculous. Maybe 11 or 13%. It was ridiculous. Here, because it is COVID and all the fear mongering, and by the way, when there's emergency use authorization, you're not allowed to advertise and push the vaccine. Yet, somehow, they're really walking up to the line, folks. The Walgreens commercials. This is our shot. This is our shot. You guys know what I'm talking about. This is our shot to get back to normalcy. That is right up to the line. But despite all of that, despite McDonald's giving out free heart attack burgers, despite Krispy Kreme giving out free fatty donuts, all right, despite the lottery, despite everything else, Joe Biden failed to hit the 70+% mark. And you would know that if you're a follower of the Public Polling Project, because we've been tracking it for 4.5, 5 months now, right? And you saw, as a matter of fact, do I still have it? I think I may even still have it. It may take me a second because there's so much here I have loaded up. Oh, there it is. Let me get rid of all this other stuff. Oh, no, wait. Boom, 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 boom. Give me a second here. That's X'd out. That's X'd out. You got to make sure that all the other ones are like out of the list on the queue. There it is. You'd know that because here is from March to June, the first week of June. And you can see more than just how we absolutely nailed how many people were taking it and how many people weren't. Outside of that, what we clearly see here is that the percentage of people who said they will not take it has not budged. So the Biden administration's public service campaign was flawed. And we have spent, I don't know how many hours on air talking about why now, but they fundamentally misunderstood the problem. They fundamentally misunderstood the coalition of no way. And they made it about NASCAR drivers and deadliest catch watchers, those bad evangelical white Southern Christians. They don't listen, they're backward. That was not, of course, the totality of their problem. And because they solely targeted them and tried to shame them instead of convince them, tried to shame them, not only did it not budge, it actually took 0.2 of a percentage point higher over a 3-month period. All right? And what we saw is that number who said, I intend to get vaccinated, has gone down over that time period. That is what it supported the 18 roughly point increase over that period of people who said, I took it. All right? I have been vaccinated. So we nailed that puppy. That's for sure. So that, for instance, we'll track that. I imagine it will be a little bit higher, but it will not be Joe Biden's target. And of course, registered voter economic confidence index, despite the jobs report, which wasn't a bad jobs report, it was a big number, but it was crappy again. It was back to the services Obama job, Laura. Mm-hmm. If you removed leisure and hospitality from the wage growth number, wages were nil. It was because of the entrance of all those jobs and because of how much their wages gained, and that is being driven by restaurants, business owners of that nature, tourism, having to pay ridiculous amounts to get people to come back to work because of the government pandemic response on insurance benefits. So when you pay people to sit at home, and you pay them more than they make going to work in some cases, in many cases, unfortunately, they'll even take less if they don't have to work for it. That's a sad reality of human nature, but it is true. They'll exploit what they can. All right? They had to up how much they can pay people to come and wait on tables, to come and cook, to come and do this, to come and do that. To work in these industries. So that we're seeing bigger wages and salaries for people who are, they're low skill.
Not
They're low.
skilled.
I mean, they are though low skill. I'm talking about low skills in the sense that it's not a technical skill. It's not a vocational skill. It's not education based. It's not professional class. It's getting, like I said, waiters, waitresses, leisure and hospitality, folks. Leisure and hospitality. And they're making more money than they ever would have made because their employers are being forced to pay to get people to come and do it. All right? So if you remove that, wage growth was nil. Construction sucked, and that's because, you look at a report that's 800 plus thousand, you would expect there to be this just ginormous boom in manufacturing and construction. That didn't happen, unfortunately, because of inflation. Because the cost of building materials. So, it's not the goods producing economy that we saw in the last 4 years. 4 years prior to Joe Biden. And that's tragic because that means bad news for Pennsylvania. Bad news for Michigan. Bad news for any mid-Atlantic state. Right? Right?
It's right.
All the
You're
way
right,
in
you're
down south, over the Appalachian Trail to West Virginia. Bad news for Louisiana, which had a problem, was hurting from the gas crisis. It's tragic. It's tragic.
So
All right.
sad.
It is.
It is.
All
I
right.
just
So
don't understand.
they'll get to tout the 800 plus and say, oh, this is one of the strongest jobs reports in history. Remember, Donald Trump had averaging a million back to back. And in one of those months, we retrieved half of all the construction jobs that had been lost during the shutdown. 1 month. And in 1 month, we retrieved 1/5 of the manufacturing jobs that had been lost. Unfortunately, that is not the case anymore. All right, so let's see if we can get some questions in here, shall we?
Son, I got plenty.
Nice, let's go.
All right.
Oh, did I enable the locals chat? I did, right? Okay.
Been on it. Don't worry.
On it!
Gotcha.
It's so hard to do it when you're not here. I was trying to do it in What Are the Odds the other day. It's very difficult.
People are like, so happy to see you. I'm like, I'm
Me
sorry
too.
that I.
Me too.
It's just the baby. On Mondays, it's harder because of
It's
that
tough.
time frame. All right. So, Jury Spider wants to know, does Rich have any thoughts on Michigan legislature report stating no widespread attempts at fraud occurred? They claim to refute some of Matt Brainyard's findings, but
Yeah.
aren't clear about how they investigated.
It's a joke.
Also,
Yeah.
very dismissive about clear illegal behavior, observer removal, Bristol Board, Secretary of State record deletion, etc.
Yeah, I would say that at this point, you're going to have states like that, particularly, even though I'm much happier with how Pennsylvania is responding, that they don't want to be embarrassed. It's really that simple. They do not want to be embarrassed. They never answered our questions. We absolutely supplied them with some stuff. Never heard a word. So they just outright dismissed stuff. They didn't get the applications, the absentee ballot applications. They didn't review those. So if you're not reviewing where you would find credible sources to these problems. Look, they had an entire county have to recount and recalibrate their machines and recount them because they made an error. They were among the worst on election day. That was a net gain of 6,000 votes, that error for Donald Trump alone. So yeah, they never answered any of our specific questions that we raised. They never refuted the specific report we sent them. So, if you're not looking in the right places, then you wouldn't be able to find them. Also, and both Matt and I have said this a bunch of times, you have to understand why it's so difficult for these people to admit these problems. They are essentially admitting that they have failed and that they have been incompetent in their roles. Because it is the legislature who sat back and allowed Jocelyn Benson to do all of this unilaterally, such as changing signature verification procedures, weakening the standard, the traditional standard. Like Robert brought up the other day, your signature on record could be in cursive. You could write in all caps block, and they would have taken that signature. So these people pretend as if they went through some rigorous process and verified these signatures. They went through this rigorous process and verified the absentee ballot notifications for those who had change of address flags. Like, they picked up the phone and called the records like we did and spoke to people like we did.
Yep.
They didn't do any of this. They're full of crap.
True story.
They don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to be called racists. They don't want to be embarrassed. And they're just liars. They're liars.
That sums it up.
Sums it up.
All right.
Michigan's one of the
Oh,
dirtiest, and you know it.
I thought you were finished.
You know it. You've seen it. You locals, you've seen it.
I looked at it. I researched it. I data mined it. Yes.
We had independent people come in and look at it. They caught them deleting records.
It's so dirty. You gotta take 2 showers.
You got to shower after it.
2.
And now I've never claimed that would be like in Michigan the margin, as you all know. We don't know how these ballots voted because nobody really did a true audit of it. So we don't really know how it impacted the margin. And as I have stated numerous times, that would have been the one state where I do believe Joe Biden would have held on, even if all things were as bad as everybody says. Or at least he had a very good chance to hold on. I don't know. We'll never know now, unfortunately.
Vince Locker would like to know.
But he didn't need Michigan. That's the truth. I'm sorry. I'm just saying. He didn't need it.
I got you.
Indefinitely confined in Wisconsin alone.
Vince Locker is curious if Rich could comment on Doug Wilder essentially going off on McAwful and Kuhnman and what effect this could potentially have in the Virginia gubernatorial race.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with that enough. I'll check that rant out and remind me.
All right.
Okay? Because I've heard, I haven't
You
seen
didn't
it. Yeah,
listen to all of it.
I haven't
got
seen
you.
it.
Vince, just, remind me on locals. Real Jim. Why?
Get a clip, Vince, right now. Put it in the chat.
Shoot a clip.
And I'll check it out right now, just so I don't forget to.
And Real Jim would like to know, why is Massachusetts such a blue state outside of the Boston metro area? Yankees, legacy, ancestral Dems. Could Trump tighten the margin there?
Yeah, so there is... Look, Massachusetts is pretty blue. Even though there have been Republican governors who have won it. It's a weird dynamic in Massachusetts, which is why, and I love that question, because this is why we're going to do voter analysis. Once I get past some of the more requested battlegrounds, we had North Carolina, we had Georgia, so many people wanted different things. I think we're pretty much, like I said before, it's time to move into the non-battlegrounds because other states have stories to tell too. Massachusetts is a great example, and I'll push it to the front of the list because of that question. I love it so much. There is even a shift, a battle, and we saw this with Kennedy and Markey in the primary. There's even a battle now between the working class, typical Democratic ancestral base, and the more elitist metros, or the wannabe elitists in metro areas. And we saw Kennedy lose that. He became the first Kennedy, working class, very pro-working class, the first Kennedy to lose a race in that state. And interestingly enough, it's an education thing in many parts. It's a migration thing as well, and an out-migration thing. So they've lost a lot of conservative voters to other states, or not even conservative, but what used to be the blue dog ancestral Democratic Massachusetts voter, the Labor voter, right? And then it's also true that Labor has gotten their hands around the necks of memberships again in some of these states where they started to, like, especially private sector unions, started to lose the voting loyalty of some of their memberships. They've begun to wrangle them again. It's a very complicated question, and it really deserves a voter analysis to go along with it. And also I'll do a migration thing to supplement with that because it'll remind you a lot like California. If you guys remember that, if you guys had seen that. Or it's more than just immigration that was coming into the state.
Mm-hmm.
It's this rise of the professional class in some of these areas that moves spread out into the suburbs. While it's more than just them becoming a greater number. They're losing that traditional ancestral democratic working class base. They're losing. Those people are going to other places. They've gone to New Hampshire. They've gone to even not other New England states. They've gone to the Midwest. They've gone to Florida, by the way. A lot of big, like we all think New York. But there is actually a big Massachusetts out migration of Florida. Those people get to like Pinellas County or Monroe, and they vote Republican. All right? So the northeastern region of the country is badly economically depressed. And it's economically depressed to the point where it hurts those people. The professional class have their techie stuff. They got their financial services stuff. And they're there. And they're in the Cambridge. And maybe they're a social worker for the city of Cambridge or something, right? After spending $200,000 on an education, he gets a job as a social worker in Cambridge, right? Those are the master's degree in philosophy. Those are the people who stayed there, live there still, and vote liberal. And while the others said there's nothing for me here anymore, and I'm moving. And Donald Trump did get a lot of votes, if you remember, in the Republican primary in Massachusetts. He got a lot of Democratic votes, or prior Democratic votes. The problem for Republicans in that state is just not that many of them anymore. That's just true. And those who still there, there's that labor attachment, Laura, which is difficult. I mean, that definitely deserves a voter analysis, and I love that. Who asked that? Oh, that's right. All right. But tune in, because that's coming soon. Massachusetts, great place to start. We already did Maine. And from Massachusetts, we could go to Connecticut. That's a great, move. I like that. Let's go to the Northeast next. I like that idea.
All right.
Because there was a lot of talk in 2016. Oh my God, Donald Trump's working class numbers are so big with working class whites. Maybe he could carry Massachusetts.
It was Real Jim.
Yeah. Real Jim?
Okay.
Okay. But the truth is, they don't. That's why someone like a Mitt Romney or a Baker can win that state in the gubernatorial level. They're not working class Republicans, because they're not winning that segment of the population.
Mm-hmm. All right. Whoa, it's Dustin. Question.
Whoa, it's Dustin.
Question. Biden has benefited from a high approval due primarily to public approval of handling of COVID.
Absolutely.
Recently, Biden announced he is going to go door to door to reach the unvaccinated. Does this put that high COVID approval in jeopardy due to the controversial nature of that tactic? Also, should the GOP, based on survey responses, go on a major offensive on this issue? Frankly, Biden hasn't done a thing on his own initiative to combat COVID. He's grifted off of Trump's policies.
That is a fair criticism of Biden, and he's also 100% correct about what is propping up Joe Biden's approval rating. We are starting to see that recede now, because it's possible that tactic could become, what's the word? Invasive?
Mm-hmm.
And people could be like, whoa, what the hell are you doing? Absolutely. But what he's trying to do at all cost, and honestly, I understand the political strategy. He doesn't give a damn about how many people are truly vaccinated. Big Pharma owns the White House and owns Capitol Hill. They own these social media companies. I mean, their reach runs deep. Okay? Mm-hmm. So they're making a ton of money, and all these cowards and corrupt pieces of garbage are their mouthpieces. That being said, Biden, from his own personal interests, his pollsters are seeing what we're seeing. COVID as a voting issue is falling to the wayside. Single digits now, mid to high single digits coming in as top, the top issue for people, when it was just 30%, 4.5 months ago. At all costs, he's trying to keep COVID the conversation. Because if the conversation becomes the economy, or becomes immigration, or becomes foreign policy, whatever, he's in a lot of trouble. The conversation, Republicans should go on the offensive because he failed. Notice you don't hear in unison Republicans using the F word. You're a failure. You were handed the trajectory of the goal to reach the goal by the prior president who you told the American people was mismanaging this crisis.
But took the same plan.
You took the trajectory, his plans, everything. Somehow, the only thing you did, adding your spin to it, knocked it off the trajectory of success.
That takes
In
talent.
unison, Republicans should be using the F word. Failure. But they're not. Because they're chumps. And because they don't want to be... They don't want to get a call. They don't want to get a call from someone on the board of Pfizer or something, or a reporter from Reuters. Oops, same thing. I don't know how the hell you can sit on a board of a drug company and run an outlet that covers this. Anyway,
You digress.
they don't want to get a call from these people because this is their bread and butter. Listen up, chump. You won't get a campaign contribution next year if you don't shut the hell up. Oh, yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir. I'm so sorry. One cheek or two. One cheek or two. Cowards.
Bend in this.
Yeah.
Bend over.
Bend over. Take your whooping. That's just, the sad reality of political life in America. I mean, the Republicans, Democrats, that is what made Donald Trump so damn different. Love him or hate him, he is the only one who did what he is the only one who could do what he did on prescription drug prices. He is the only one who could do what we were talking about John Lewis the other day. The late Elijah Cummings, who was huge on prescription drug reform. You know why it kept dying? Because he had to stay within the parameters of his donations. He had to make sure it looked good to the voters, like Obamacare. It looked good, but it looked like you were sticking it to the insurance companies, to the drug companies. It looked like it, but in truth, they support it. Because either way, it's a win for them. And Donald Trump wasn't playing that game. And he said, I'll do it without you. I'll do it by executive action. And he took executive action on it. Because it became very clear to him very quickly that they're not really for this. This is yet another one of those issues where, yeah, we're going to stick it to Wall Street, but I'll take donations 6-1 from Wall Street against my opponent. They're full of it. Yeah, I mean, this one is not hard. And of course, you want to do to him what Democrats did to Donald Trump. Donald Trump's Achilles heel was the economy. No way Joe Biden was going to beat him on that issue. And he's still, even going into Election Day, people overwhelmingly, double digits. Who do you trust more to handle? We asked a dozen, right? You remember? Mm-hmm. On the economy, he never came close to Donald Trump. Nope. Never. But he had to cut Donald Trump's Achilles heel, which was the economy. How'd they do that? COVID, the shutdown.
There would be no force that could stop Donald Trump from winning.
And still
they had
to change the rules
Yeah.
of the election.
Yeah.
Still, they had to change the rules of the election to outsource, and to outsource, they still had to change the rules of the election to defeat him, even though he presided over the largest drop in gross domestic product in a quarter ever. Donald Trump broke records for highs, and he sure as hell broke records for
So much
lows.
that things had to stop and reboot.
But they
Just
didn't,
saying.
though.
No,
That's the
I'm
thing.
saying
Their
in the
recession was never coming. Since 2018, the end of 2018, the media had been pushing a recession and never came. So they needed COVID. They needed it.
No, there was no other way. That's what I'm saying.
Those blue states kept their economies closed on purpose. They kept their insured unemployment rates at skyrocketing levels. They created long-term employment and poverty to defeat a sitting U.S. president.
What does that say? They're willing
says
to
they're
destroy
flat-
your own city, your
It's
own
more than
home,
corrupt. It's more than corrupt.
just to
It's
make
more than
sure
corrupt.
somebody loses.
They're going to hell for that.
Yeah, they are.
And you want to look. I'm a believer. You know, you put other human beings in the kind of condition, you hurt them to that extent for personal gain. You ain't making it.
Mm-hmm. You sold their soul.
You ain't making it.
You sold other people's souls
You
for your profit.
You broke families.
Mm-hmm.
You destroyed lives. Those gates are not opening for you. I'm sorry. And that's true on I'm not talking about one party or the other.
Oh, no. Whoever did that.
Anyone who inflicts pain on others for personal gain.
Greed.
Is cast. And I'm not a thumper, guys. But I do believe in right and wrong. And I do believe that there is something in the end that will judge you.
Held accountable.
Yes, that you will be
your
held
actions.
accountable for it. It's just, I'm a math guy, so it's like, oh, how could you be a believer? It's like, well, I studied near-death experiences for years, and they all had these similarities. I mean, that alone, logically,
and even
it's
that's your statistic.
Yeah,
you're a numbers person, so
they
you
all
see
had
the
this overlap,
yeah.
and you get a welcoming committee, you get a life review, and you get judged. And one day you will be judged, and I really do believe that. And if you don't, whatever, more power to you. But for your sake, I hope I'm wrong and you're right, because well, no, I don't. I hope in the end that I'm right, because there has to be some sense of or at least not has to be. Yeah, I want there to be some sense of ultimate accountability, and of course, who would not prefer an ultimate justice?
Yes.
Right? Who would not prefer that? And in fact, I think many people choose not to believe because it's easier.
Well, they
because
no
it's
longer have an
because they are afraid to
counterpart.
hold. They are afraid. And I know that from even my own. You know that through my own journey and walk, Laura. I didn't not believe. I
just didn't think you
didn't want to get over the hurt. Yeah, I didn't want to get. It's hard to get yourself over the hurdle of like, wow, one day I will be held to account for this. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have to answer.
Yes,
for that.
Sir. You know how I am. All right, Ryu.
Little spiritual
guy.
Oh, book of the day: emotionally healthy spirituality, day by day. That's a great book. Now you just wake up. There's quotes from all sorts of famous people. It's not even particularly religious. I am a firm believer in the power of positive thinking. Okay. And that's really what that's about, right?
Yes.
Ultimately.
Ryu, bro, thanks for getting that song stuck in my head. What do you think about the California governor's race? Is it possible to get useless people out like Ken Calvert?
It's turning into a charade.
That's what
I did just get an email from Jen, or you want to see what it was? Let's see. Hang on. I mean, I'm sure others got it too, but let's see. I think it's honestly turning into a complete and total charade. It's a real shame because I really did believe that there was somebody who could get in it. Now at this point, in this point, it would be better off if he waited and just ran in 2022. Like, legitimately, because you will. This is essentially a special. They're doing things much differently. You'll vote yes or no on the recall, and then you'll vote for who is going to replace him if he's recalled, or
when he's recalled.
He stepped down and somebody else takes his place. And the bottom line is, this is such a charade now. And all that is, hey, look, I filed a motion to become an intervening party to ensure transparency in Gavin Newsom's lawsuit against the Secretary of State. All right. This is, it's just an attempt to get a story. But in any event, it needed to be somebody who really did transcend politics. I just don't think Jenner was ready for prime time. It was a fantastic launch video. Big mistake on how they had prepped for the question about voter fraud. major mistake about that, because every candidate is going, like Don Smith says, every Republican candidate's going to get the question of, what do you think about Donald Trump's claims about voter fraud? What do you think? I mean, they're going to try to do that. And I cannot believe they were not really prepped for that. You have to... Team Trump is behind Jenner right now, right? I mean, this very Trump world surrounds Jenner. So there is a way to push people out, and I mean, they're not really doing it. And I really can't tell you in a race like this how important it is, if Republicans really want to have a shot, to make sure Democrats are fractured and Republicans are united. Any division whatsoever is going to cost. Even during an incredible, all the political stars align kind of year or month, in this case, couple months, that is not going to be enough. So if you want to see people pushed out, I mean, you the people can help push people out too. You better get on it. And by that, I mean send emails, go to the website, send emails. Hey, you have no freaking shot. Let Jenner do Jenner. And you get the hell out of the way. And because Jenner is the only one, I mean, that is the most credible candidacy right now.
It's sad.
I think it is because Jenner just was not ready. At least not yet. Maybe would be ready to govern like a champ. I don't know. I'm just saying, not ready for someone who got fawning media coverage their entire lives to have all of a sudden the shock of the media turning on them. And I've seen this before with other Republican celebrities. Donald Trump, yes. But he did know how to play the media in 15 and 16. He did play them well. But I've seen other celebrities get this shock value. Like, oh my God, so-and-so loved me. I can't believe I have a negative headline from this person. And it really bothered them, and it threw them off. And you got to be ready for that. And dare I say, Jenner made a few mistakes here.
Yeah. Rudd Elgin. Has there ever been a poll on American attitudes, awareness and knowledge about energy, engineering, energy economics, and green versus real energy, hydrocarbons, nuclear, etc.?
And by that, I'm gathering you mean their viability of different things, right? Is that? I mean, if he could follow up, that'd be great, or he or she.
I don't know.
Do you support nuclear energy? Do you support this? Are you aware this is not available yet? Are you aware this is theoretical? Or if this wasn't theoretical and it was put into practice, would you support it? Is that what you mean? Because we have done various things about whether or not people support development of these different alternative energies, but then also whether or not they would be willing to sacrifice current things in order to get them. Mm-hmm. And the answer is no. The answer is no. So people are like, let me know when this is ready and up and ready to go. And that's about all we've done. So for certain alternative energy sources, would you be willing to pay more until this is done, more widely available, and whether the technology exists or does not, whether it's widespread, really. And that's about it. I mean, I don't know if they followed up yet, but this is getting hairy out here, so let's get
a few more.
I don't want to say things out loud, but there are definitely things that we have to do. This came quicker than I thought.
We got this. Are you going to pull
I'm not paying for another one of those. You understand what I'm saying?
I got
you can answer the questions. I'm not kidding. Gentlemen, you wouldn't do it either. The one thing I still have to do
You're interrupting
is
into
my smoker
question
is
time.
not covered. All right, go ahead.
Poll kit. Are you going to poll the Ohio Senate primary?
Yeah, I mean, I would. I may. I may.
All right.
I will pull Ohio when the time comes, probably.
Okay.
I would definitely suggest adding that in there. I'm very good at Ohio now. I think we have established that I corrected for 2016 when we got it right, but we underpolled his support. And that would clearly make me, considering I'm the only one who had close to Trump plus 10, I think that would clearly make.
So the answer is yes.
Make me the more credible
accurate
one in the
Shocker. Jay Patel was very curious today. Number one, is immigration the number one issue now?
No.
Okay. Was there a pattern in the presidential voting patterns and the runoffs for the Senate, or were there Trump voters just disenfranchised and didn't come out?
That's the second part was mostly you're talking about in Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean there's no doubt about it. That's the point I was trying to make with the graphs we put up here. There is no doubt, without a doubt, those were Trump voters who did vote for Donald Trump in 2016, but were really pissed off and just simply decided not to vote. All right, so just to show you this real quick, you see the central part of the state where Democrats do have some support. The counties beneath those counties, Lawrence, Wheeler, Tefler, Dodge, all the way down, Jeff Davis, they suffered from very low turnout. A lot of Democrats there that voted for Donald Trump, and they didn't come out and vote for anybody else because they are Democrats, but they wouldn't consider themselves like Raphael Warnock Democrats, right? And they just said, you know what? I'm not voting. What the hell's the point?
Right. And his final question is, Rich, pick between the two names for the Republicans. We're not them party, or we don't stand for something. So we don't stand for nothing party?
I don't know, guys. You're gonna have to do that. I don't consider myself a Republican, so you guys are gonna have to figure that out. I usually, people ask me to describe the Republican Party, and I usually corrupt, cowardly, and what was the other one?
Oh, stand for nothing.
They're 33% corrupt, 33% cowardly, and 33% stupid.
Stupid.
Right, that's it. So if you could come up with one word that defines all of that, the CCS or the SCC, stupid, cowardly, and corrupt, that would be...
That goes well.
Is that stupid, cowardly, and corrupt? Yeah. I mean, that would be the way that would be the three adjectives that you're looking for something to encompass.
Neocons and Democrats. Neomats.
Well, that's a wing of that. They're now just Democrats.
True.
I mean, the Bill Kristols, they're not going to win. The Bill Kristols are not going to win this fight. And the Mitt Romneys, they're not going to win the fight for the Republican Party. The question is whether the better liars will. You understand what I mean by that? Liz Cheney has no constituency outside of a third of the vote in Wyoming. Okay? The question is whether or not the people who are... Look, there's a lot of people who claim to be champion of conservative values out there. They'll get on there, they'll take to the floor of the House, and they'll slam their fist and they'll thump their chest. But when it comes down to it, they're cowards too. Now, those people are dangerous to you people if you believe in conservative populism, whatever, because they're just better liars. So the ones that have Google and Facebook and Twitter and all the rest of them in the hot seat and then do nothing about them, they're the dangerous ones. But then they'll go on Hannity and they'll scream about how they're holding them accountable. They'll rail against FISA and corrupt spying and then vote to reauthorize the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. That's who my view, the threat right now to Republicans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's go on. Let's go one more.
How about, can we do 6 and you give 2 minute answer?
That's never going to happen.
I think you can.
It's
I'll
not
stop
gonna
you
happen.
if you don't.
It's not
All
going to
right, C wants to know, I keep hearing Evers is weak and can be picked off in 2022.
Who?
But Evers?
Okay.
So far, no one is stepping up to run. I think they're wasting a big opportunity. Who should
Big time. Wisconsin is has been moving to the right. It's going to be hard for Democrats to keep.
Who do you think it should be?
Right now, there's nobody.
Okay.
Honestly,
That's
I'm
it?
being honest. Right now, there's nobody.
M. Holla. Some said DeSantis will be Trump's AG, but I want Ken Paxton. What do you think?
I would have picked Robert Barnes or John Ratcliffe.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Robert Barnes.
DeSantis should be his vice president if he does
Amen
run.
to that. Joel Riley. Rich, could Rich and Matt Brainerd walk in to, say, Fulton, Maricopa, Wayne, etc. counties armed with Barnes and court subpoena immediately? And
we don't have unfortunately, at this point, Republicans blew their legal strategy and allowed the courts to sidestep there were a lot better plans than the ones that Rudy and Sydney and all the rest of them had put forward. And in fact, because they were so ill prepared, they damaged other people's ability to do it as well.
And
I'm not a citizen of the state of Georgia. If you look at Robert's locals page, he'll show you that actually any citizen technically has standing to file certain suits. But again, they're going to rely on the courts kicking the can and punting. No standing. No, we can't talk about it until someone's damaged. They were really ill prepared to deal with this, and now they allow the court to set precedents to be able to. There's just unfortunately we have no standing there.
All right, Robo Beast. Are the Democrats in Georgia blue dogs?
The ones we were just talking about?
The blue dogs.
Yeah, many of them remember a time when there were blue dogs. Many of them even looked favorably on someone like Michelle Nunn, but she didn't excite them enough to go out to vote, right? She just didn't.
So
because of her father. Because of her father. It was Sam, And then there are, the people who were Democrats a long time ago, left the process, and then for Donald Trump came back and voted. There's many of them. In fact, even Pew found that. And anyone over the age of 30, if you were one of those people, you were a Trump voter. Under the age of 30, you were a Biden voter. So the new voter thing turned out to be very different than what a lot of people had suggested.
JJ Fisher, how many Jorgensen voters would go Republican? Can we get a poll on that? I'm guessing something like half.
You know what? I could go back and look at our old data and see what, map them out a little bit more, who were Jorgensen voters. But I'm telling you, it is very much a risk to look at the libertarian vote and say, well, that would have been Trump's votes. I told people this in 2016 with Gary Johnson, Larry, and the rest of them. They were all like, well, he could have won New Mexico. He could have won that. That is not true. Those voters could have been younger Democratic voters who hated Hillary Clinton, still thought Gary Johnson was a viable alternative, free weed, right? And Jorgensen had taken a lot of mainstream positions. So it's not just the case that those are Republican votes that would have been, siphoned off of Donald Trump. In fact, in Arizona, we saw a lot of Democrats who went out and voted because of pot. But then in the end didn't like Joe Biden and voted for Joe Jorgensen. We saw that in our polling, and it in fact looks like, that's been borne out. And we'll wait to see the results in Arizona.
All right, and Lumen, I don't even like saying the rest of it, so Lumen, People's Funding Daily, we have a governor election coming up next year, here in Texas. West just tossed his hat in Sunday. Yeah. Will you be able to pull that Texas governor race?
We may. We may. Honestly, I don't know yet, but we may. We'll see. All right, I can't answer that for certain, but I am thinking about it. All right. So is that it? That's 6?
Yeah, that's all 6.
All right.
See, I told you could do
Everybody who is that was like a lightning round. Pow pow. Everybody who is in the path of the storm, make sure you're prepared. All right. Even though you may have ridden out bigger storms before, always take them seriously, of course. It's a little late in the season. But I called Generac to come and give a quote. When we built it with a transfer switch. I mean, I'm tired of that, But in the meantime, get your water, get everything else you need. 3 days, you know the deal. If you've been in the path of the hurricane before, you know the deal. But be safe. Again, if you like the video on YouTube. Okay, we got so many views. So it's how do we have this many views and not this many likes? I hear you. A lot of people are telling us they like videos and have to go back and re-like them. And I got a lot of messages too over the weekend. Lisa, I got yours too, but a lot of other people saying they retweeted something 10 times. It would be a big favor if you would just go ahead and like it again. Just go ahead and retweet it again. I know the game they're playing. I get it. Just let it go. Be a bigger person and just let them know. Inside the numbers was like, you could type INS on Twitter, and inside the numbers came up like that. And now, the hashtag's not even there anymore. We get it. We see it. We know what they're doing. All right? But it would be a big help if you guys would just go ahead and retweet again. Go ahead and like again. Go ahead and share again. All right? And if you, of course, watch the videos and you don't subscribe to the YouTube channel, what the hell's wrong with you? We changed it to just in the URL, People's Pundit now. No People's Pundit Daily in the YouTube channel. YouTube.com/G/People's Pundit. All right. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell. That'll let you know when we're going to go live. And of course, you can still follow me on Twitter at People's_Pundit. And again, if you contribute to the Public Polling Project, the link is down below in the description for those who need it. If you contribute to the Public Polling Project, especially if you're not somebody who's on locals and a member of the locals community, please leave a comment for us, giving us your input on what you would like to see polled. All right? It's not a guarantee that's going to happen, but add your voice to the chorus of voices for that particular topic. Okay? And even if it's anonymous, again, even if it's anonymous, people won't see it, but we will. All right? And we'll read them. We read every single one of them, right? Every single one of them. All right, so with that, and of course, if you want to be involved in building the survey, having input on the survey, you want to get the voter analysis we went over today, just so you're not having, a map that you're looking at and that's all, join the locals community. I'm telling you, real quick, I'm going to do my locals pitch. Very much mirrors the video that we put up the other day. Finally, I got a blooper for you guys. That's hilarious.
Oh, yes.
All right.
Locals.
But when you join the locals community, the People's Pundit locals community, you are joining a revolution in data journalism. We're going to drag this industry, including the polling industry, into the 21st century, into the sunlight of transparency. We are going to do things the way that everybody should do them. And we're going to force them to either do them or look stupid. Either share this information, either be this open, or look shady. Look shady. We're never going to beat them in a narrative war. This one plus this one plus... That's garbage. All we could do is put out more accurate polling, like the New York Post said, more accurate polling with above average transparency. And make them look dumb. Because the bigger the community grows, the more this circulates what we're doing here, the more impact it will have.
And
right
it
now,
gives power back to the people.
it's giving you power back. That's the point. It's giving you power back. For $5 a month, you get more power. It's that simple.
Woo.
All right? peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. All right. Be safe, everybody. Thanks for watching, as always. And we will see you Friday. Oh, my God. One last thing. Well, it's not totally firmed up yet here. Okay, go ahead.
No, actually, 3 probably.
Okay, there are announcements. I can't run out yet. Yeah. Go ahead.
Don Smith show tomorrow.
Thursday.
That is tomorrow.
Thursday evening, which I'll share on my locals.
Yes. Number 2, Zoom meeting.
Not sure about that yet. What's going on with this? We'll see.
No,
with the storm.
I'm just saying. Inform them.
What about but with Frank? We got Frank. Quite frankly, on what day?
On Monday, the 19th.
That's next Monday or no? Monday, July 19th.
It's the Monday.
I'll be on Quite Frankly with Frank. Always great, always fun interview. Is Eric done yet? Did you firm up Eric yet?
Firming up Eric after we talk after the show.
Okay, and we'll firm up Eric. We're going to have an X-Files interview. And then, listen, this Stop Political Persecution rally being held in D.C. on July 17th with Matt Brainerd. Share it, support it in any way you can. If you can't go, share it, make it widespread. Now is the time, because if you don't stop it now, it's going to get worse. Every time they're allowed to get away with injustice, they are emboldened. I finally see Ashley Babbitt trending on Twitter today, which is fine. Somebody wants to finally say her name, all right? But we know very little about what happened there. That would never have happened if the roles were reversed. I was thinking of going myself to D.C. just to lend my support. It's only a couple-hour drive. I may actually do the speech in Vero Beach because there are satellite rallies. The one in Vero got big. So I may actually do that. All right. I don't know yet, but in any way we can, I'm doing my part. In any way I can, you guys do your part. This is very important. I told you I was going to get more vocal about this. This is very important.
Listen, when
currently Joe Biden has locked up more people political dissidents than
You're nicer than me.
I'm right now I am. Let's see whether or not I get up there. All right, that's going to be a whole different Rich. All right. Currently, Joe Biden has locked up way more people than Vladimir Putin.
Amen.
All right. So this is not the America that your parents gave you. This isn't the America your parents passed off to you. It's not the America their parents passed off to them, or their parents came to. You know, this is what they came here to get away from that crap. My grandfather, my great-grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they were leaving. Fascist Italy.
Yep.
Only to come here and have their grandchildren deal with the same tactics that Mussolini employed on them. This is very important. I cannot stress this enough. Otherwise, non-violent offenders who did nothing more than trespass. If you can even call that. Mm-hmm. All right? So, like I said, I shouldn't have left it for the very end of the show here. But do what you can. Share it. Support it in any way you can. And remember, lookaheadamerica.org. All right? And I'm outie. Like Trouty. Be safe.
See you on the flip side.
See you on the flip side, folks. See you on the flip side.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Get on a plane and take a one-way ride. Steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for knives to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Yeah.